This is a very beautiful and very deep question that really comes right to the heart of the spiritual path. So I love that you noticed and then said, I can't hold all of your words right now, but something like, if I don't do this, I'm losing my heart's love. And of course, that's true. And it's very hard. What you're asking is very hard, and probably something each and every one of us has dealt with so many times in this life, because we have spent so much of our time living, dealing, reacting on this material plane, on this egoic plane. And so not only what is natural for the ego, but what we're supported to do in our behavior so many times is, if people don't love us well, if they've hurt us, if they retract their love, just in any way, say mean things, leave us. As I think you said, they're no longer even in your life, but I think you implied you were left. That just happens. And we're supported to be angry with them, to feel hurt by them, to want them to be behaving other than how they're behaving. I've told this story too. My mother, who I wound up in a beautiful place with, fortunately, before she left her body. We had several years of a very uplifted, loving relationship. But the first 30 years of my life with her, maybe even a few more than that, were very difficult. She was somebody who had been hurt, and so she hurt. She was critical, she was demeaning. She spent a lot of my life telling me why I was never going to be able to succeed at things. By God's grace, I kept trying. But that's very powerful when you hear that kind of stuff. And I spent a whole year of my life. Now, this was right before I was steeped in this path. I was on the path already, but it wasn't the forefront of my life yet. That happened very quickly after this. But I spent a year of my life practicing forgiveness consciously. I read about forgiveness. I took workshops on forgiveness. I prayed about it. I did affirmations about it. I didn't have the subtlety that I'm going to speak about in a moment. But one morning, I woke up like that. I woke my husband up. I said, "You won't believe what happened." He said, "What?" Out of his sound asleep. I said, "I've forgiven my mother." He looked at me. He said to me, "Are you sure?" I said, "I'm certain." I said to him, "I feel it in my heart. There's not even in a corner any upset with her anymore." It was unbelievably freeing for me. And then we moved into these beautiful years together. So, yes, it's absolutely possible to love people who have hurt you. My mother never apologized to me. She could never fully own what she had done. I could say all of what she had done. She couldn't own even a little bit of it. But I love her, not just loved. I love my mother. I love that soul. So absolutely it's possible. But now what I've learned, since I've been on this path, and I've been studying, reading, praying, meditating, all these more years is this. As long as we are living and wanting human love to take care of us, to help us to feel safe and whole and grounded, we can't do that. We will not forgive the people who hurt us because people hurt us. Master said, and I remember this, I won't have the exact quote, but I read it when I was teaching a class a few weeks ago on how do we deal with hurt feelings from Swamiji's book, Secrets of Emotional Healing. Patanjali said it. That's right. Patanjali said, I wish I had the beginning of this quote, but he was basically saying, why would you look to this world to solve your problems? He said, every person is going to hurt you. Everybody, Patanjali said this, is going to hurt you. The only answer is consciousness. That's what he said. That's extraordinary. That's very close to his words. And I think what we need to see is God in that person, God's love in that person. What we are seeking is divine relationship. That's what we're seeking. We're seeking to see God everywhere and to love God in everyone. And when we do that, there's not even anything to forgive. And I can speak from experience because I've had the experience of having some very challenging life experiences with people. We all have. But I've done this consciously, practicing unconditional love. And unconditional love only happens at a soul level. The ego will not allow that for us. It just won't. So when we're living from an egoic place, we will not be able to forgive people. Whenever we can accomplish raising our energy and living in a soul reality, we will naturally, again, it's so beyond forgiveness. You remember the story of the great saint who left his ashram and went into the village one day? And he was a saint. Sai Ganesh recently told this story in his Sunday service. I didn't know this, but he was the saint. He lived in, his reality was so in God that he didn't even wear clothes. Maybe if he went into town, he put on a little loincloth, but generally walked around naked. I didn't know that was the saint who did that, but this is what Sai Ganesh said. And he went into town one day, and a lot of little boys were making fun of him. We've all heard this story, or many of us have many times. But it's such a powerful story, worth retelling very often. And many of the kids were picking up rocks and throwing them at him, and from their end, making fun of him. But he was happy, and of course he was joy. So he was in town in that joyful state. And he went back to his ashram, and his disciples looked at him. He was bleeding, blood all over his back. And they were saying, "Master, what happened?" And he said, "Oh, I went into town and I had so much fun with the little boys. We were laughing and they were playing and they were throwing stones." You see, everything in life is about our reality. If we try and live in somebody else's reality, we're lost. we're lost. We've lost those moments in life. But if we live from that place of divine love, we don't even notice when we're being badly treated. Most of us aren't there. I'm still telling all the stories about how quickly I can remember to get back to that state or not at times. We're all making the effort. We're all sincerely walking this path. But absolutely, and I'll say one more thing about this. In my work, my professional work, which is coaching people, I hear so many stories of people who were not treated well by their parents. It's such a common thing because, after all, our parents are not enlightened beings. They are living in life with their own limitations, and then they're trying to be parents, raise another soul. They often haven't even thought of us as a soul. And they simply make a lot of mistakes, and they teach us things about ourselves that are not true. And this is a harsh word, but it's the truth. They lie to us. This is what I said about my mother. She laughed at me when I told her I wanted to be a doctor. She literally laughed, but it was like this: "Oh, honey, you can't be a doctor. You don't have it in you." It sounded like the sweetest thing in the world. "You go to nursing school. You'll try hard, you'll be a good nurse." I believed her. I absolutely believed her, and I went to nursing school. And I was a good nurse. And quite frankly, it was a great thing. I think all doctors ought to go to nursing school because you learn so much there that you never learn in medical school. That's essential to treating people well. But that's not the point. The point is, I did not have a mother who said, "Absolutely, you will be an extraordinary physician, and I'm going to help you in every way that I can." No, she told me I couldn't do it. It was not the truth. But we don't know that when we're younger. We take all of that in. And often we're enraged with our parents. We don't always know it, but it affects our behavior. Then I see these people and I'm coaching them, and they haven't forgiven their parents. They didn't even know that was there. But it's affecting their ability to open their hearts and love. And even if those parents have left their body, to me, the most important thing is to forgive them. It's sort of like Christ said, forgive them. They know not what they do. Very important. Even if people are not in their body, if we haven't transcended that reaction in us, that hurt in us, then we need to practice forgiveness. And as we forgive them in ways that are inexplicable to the mind, we, as Keshava said in his prayer, we move beyond many of our own transgressions. It's just interesting how it happens, but it is an opening of the heart and the heart chakra so energy can flow. If we're angry with somebody, our heart and our heart chakra, two different things, but they're shut down and we're just blocked and we can't find God. God is love. So we need to be able to love fully, to feel that divine presence. I hope that answers your question and inspires you to open your heart.